You're listening to Transmission, expert analysis and insights into the latest trends and developments in the energy market from APA Group.
The Energy Transition Needs a Backbone by Liz McNamara, Group Executive, Sustainability and Corporate Affairs. Something interesting happened during Australia's recent liquid fuel supply crisis. As the federal government worked to shore up supply chains following the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, Australian gas exports were quietly doing some of the heavy lifting. The strength and reliability of Australian gas was part of the diplomatic currency that kept and continues to keep Australia near the front of the queue for petrol and diesel. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was direct about it. The quality and reliability of Australian agriculture, Australian resources and Australian gas has been critically important to the assurances we have received for future supplies of petrol, diesel and fertiliser. That statement reinforces Australian gas as a strategic national asset that earns goodwill, secures our supply chains and underpins our energy security. If that's true in a global fuel crisis, it's also true in an energy transition. Which is why we must get on to secure domestic gas supply through a well-designed domestic gas reservation for the East Coast, an issue that must be contemplated by Australia's Energy and Climate Change Ministerial Council, the ECMC, this week. For several years, energy infrastructure providers have argued there is a missing piece in Australia's energy transition. Governments have invested heavily in renewable energy through the Capacity Investment Scheme and state-based schemes. But there has been no equivalent policy support for the technology that will hold the whole system together when coal is gone and wind stops blowing and the sun goes down. Gas-powered generation, or GPG. The Australian Energy Market Operator, AEMO, has consistently called out the need for more GPG. The 2026 Draft Integrated System Plan forecasts that the national electricity market will need approximately 11 gigawatts of new GPG by 2050 to help meet peak demand and firm intermittent renewables. We now need a clearer policy framework to get more of these emerging GPG projects to market. Recent news reports have suggested several CIS-backed wind farm projects are struggling to reach financial close. Developers are seeking to renegotiate their government revenue guarantees in a shifting cost environment. Now consider the position of a GPG developer, facing the same cost pressures, the same financing environment, but without any government underwriting at all. Trying to deliver into the NEM's energy-only spot market that is not set up to send the long-term investment signals needed for generation that runs infrequently but must be available on demand. There is a structural mismatch between market design and the settings needed to encourage essential investment in firm, dispatchable capacity. The good news is that the policy architecture has already been designed to start addressing this. The NEM Review final report, published in December 2025, recommends an electricity services entry mechanism, the ESEM, to underwrite investment in firming, including GPG, beyond the shorter contracts typically offered by energy markets. APA supports the ESEM and the inclusion of firming as one of its core services. We made that case in our September 2025 submission to the NEM Review. The logic is straightforward. ESEM contracts, if designed properly and in genuine consultation with industry, should provide the long-term revenue certainty that the existing spot and derivatives market cannot. The implementation timeline is ambitious. Legislation by the end of 2026, a pilot firming tender by late 2026, the ESEM operational by 2028. It's a timeline that is achievable if the ECMC acts at its 8th of May meeting by approving the reform framework and signalling clearly to the market that investment in firming capacity is critical. Recent events in the Middle East have further reframed the public debate about the role of gas in our energy system. And recent comments from our Prime Minister in a speech to the Chamber of Minerals and Energy of Western Australia in Perth are encouraging. The Prime Minister highlighted the importance of a domestic gas reservation for the East Coast that would be built on the Western Australian model, along with a single-touch approvals process to fast-track new projects. Western Australia has had a reservation policy since 2006, and the results are clear. Western Australian gas prices have been 50% lower than Victoria's on average over the past 5 years. A well-designed reservation matters for the ESEM and new GPG projects too, because a GPG project can't confidently be delivered if the cost and availability of their fuel remains uncertain. The comments alongside the New South Wales Government's recent announcement to open the Bankania and the Pondy Range troughs and approval of new gas exploration for the first time in more than a decade suggest that both state and federal governments are connecting the dots between domestic gas supply, energy security and transition. Australian Gas is helping to secure our liquid fuel supply lines and our standing in the region. What the system needs now is the policy certainty provided by a domestic reservation and the ESEM to unlock the next wave of investment in gas supply and gas power generation.
For more energy industry insights, please visit apa.com.au/transmission.